forecast for the first week of November was for clouds and rain. Hardly weather to encourage anyone to jump on their bike and go for a day-long spin. And yet, the one bright hope on the horizon was Tuesday. The forecast was for sunny skies and temperatures which might even rise into double digits Celsius. Since my trip to Newfoundland in late April, I'd barely ridden the Eldorado. Nothing wrong with the bike. I'd simply been spending more time on the Quota and the Bergman scooter, while the Eldo languished in the garage. If Tuesday was going to be the only fine day for a while, I'd better take advantage of it. I didn't really have a plan. I had a vague notion to ride the Peterson and Elephant Lake roads, two of central Ontario's popular motorcycle roads, but those were just possibilities. Once I got to Bancroft, I'd make a final decision. In the end, I took the South Baptiste Lake Road, which was pleasant enough, but I was beginning to find paved roads boring. Unless you're riding at license and life-endangering speeds, paved roads can start to become a little tedious, especially when they roll on mile after mile, with little to distinguish one section of road from the next. I realize some of you watching this would be looking enviously at the lack of traffic, the pleasing scenery, and the beautiful asphalt, thinking, he just needs a good smack. But believe me, even the best roads can start to feel dull when your spirit is low. There'll be a full moon in a few hours, and you're one of those people who feels the pull of the tides. The Elephant Lake and Peterson roads would just be more of the same. I needed something a little more engaging to put some spark back in the day. So instead of heading north onto the Elephant Lake Road, I turned onto the unpaved Mumford Road for 2 or 3 miles of gravel to wake me up. I don't ride such roads fast, but I find they demand a level of concentration that's often missing on the harder surface. This one was broad and well-travelled, and not really much of a challenge, but I could feel my spirits rising. I doubt whether Moto Guzzi had Canada's backroads in mind when they designed the Eldorado, but it's as if they did. The old girl is stable and confidence-inspiring, and at the speeds I ride these roads I get to hear her wonderful music, even through my earplugs. Ignore everything I said about paved roads a few moments ago. A few miles on the twisty, bumpy, paved Burley Road was entertaining enough to keep me on my toes, even at the speeds I ride. I suspect that it hasn't been paved very long, as it winds its curvaceous course through the forest. And then I reached the Kenaway Road. Again, nothing special, but to me, a glorious 15 unpaved kilometers of road through the forest. Roads like this so much. It's the sense of remoteness, even though settled communities are not far away. It's the feeling that you're out in the world on your own, and if something goes wrong, that you're darn well going to have to figure out a solution for yourself. Even if the reality is that someone's likely to be along before too long, and will almost certainly stop to help. Fortunately, the Eldorado was running perfectly, so there was no need for me to rely on the kindness of strangers. She started instantly after every stop and purred along. Okay, clattered along, in her usual cacophony of noisy tappets, rustling pistons and booming exhaust. Now that most motorcycles are liquid-cooled and almost eerily mechanically quiet, it's easy to forget the mechanical music of yesterday's machines. The Eldorado and Guzzis of that period are particularly clattery, as the cylinder heads and valve lifters are out there in the breeze, without even the fuel tank to muffle the sound. But listen to a 60s Bonneville, or even my old Panther M120, and you'd think they're going to blow themselves apart in a second, in an explosion of hot shrapnel. Well, they might, but that's another story. Then, once again, it was time for the long haul home, riding south through Gooderham, Catchacoma and Buckhorn, before turning east towards Burley Falls. I'd never been through Burley Falls before, and was delighted by these riffles where the Otonabee River flows between Lower Buckhorn Lake and Stony Lake, and the quiet, mellifluous sound of the Eldorado gently idling in the background. The days are short in November, and even though it was only mid-afternoon, the shadows were lengthening. I was glad the sun was behind me. I didn't envy anyone who was heading west, straight towards that low sun. I'd left the heavy forest and lakes of the Canadian Shield behind, and was riding through the more pastoral lands of the Paleozoic limestone plain. This was easy riding, the kind where you just settle in and go. Pleasant enough, and an interesting counterpoint to the rocks, forest and lakes of further north. Over 300 miles of mixed riding, the Eldorado never skipped a beat. I'm constantly reminded just how robust and practical this 53-year-old machine can be. Whether trolling along gravel byways or humming along on a 4-lane highway, she never feels overwhelmed or in any danger of exploding. Her brakes may be old tech, her performance unlikely to break any speed records, and her handling isn't racetrack ready, but she gets the job done, while filling me with joy. Let's hope the current crop of new motorcycles are working just as well in 50 years' time, and providing their riders with just as much pleasure. My various motorcycle travel books are available through Amazon and Audible. Just search for Nick Adams Motorcycle. Thanks for watching.